All right, I think it's time to get started. Good morning, everybody. I'm Cindy Lair, and I'm the manager for the Colorado State Conservation Board. I'm in the Conservation Services Division of the Department of Agriculture. Glad to have you all here this morning. And this is our regularly scheduled our coffee hour that we've been doing to hold a lot of different discussions and just have opportunities to talk informally and ask questions. Usually we have specific topics that we might want to cover, but really a lot of things could be covered during this time. This morning, we are dedicating our hour to discuss and answer questions about the process for applying for stimulus money to the conservation districts and to other eligible entities for our soil health initiative that is going on. And so, as you know, on August 1st, we opened up this process, and we know that there are numerous questions from those of you that have been looking at our website and our process. And so we want to make sure that we give a good overview of what the money is about, what the program is about, and also how you can apply. So we're going to go through and give you those updates, and then we have plenty of time set aside for you to ask questions, and hopefully we'll be able to answer any questions that you have. So just wanted to start out by introducing some of our team that have been working hard on this. Nikki Brinson, you know her, she's been working with conservation districts for many years. Ryan Taylor is our he's our soil health program coordinator, and he's going to really give more details about the way the program works, the STAR program works, and how you work with landowners on that. Also, I wanted to introduce Max Newmeyer, who has been working with our team for a couple of years now. He's overseen the Colorado Collaborative for Healthy Soils. He has written a lot of the grant proposals that we have gotten. I should say all of them, anything that we have put out there to try to get more money to fund this program. Max has been definitely the lead person on that, among many other things as far as developing this program. So I want to just get us started now and give you the background on the couple of bills that make this funding available. Excuse me. So the conservation districts have already received the funding that came through the drought stimulus bill, which was Senate Bill 234. And that was $15,000 that went to every conservation district. On September 1st, there will be more drought stimulus funding that is available to apply for on, like I said, September 1st, and that is strictly having to do with Senate Bill 234. This morning, we are not talking about that. We're actually talking about Senate Bill 235. Senate Bill 235 actually created $5 million of funding, $2 million of which is going for soil health work that is implemented on the ground. And $3 million of that is set aside for the Acre 3 program, which is the Advancing Agricultural Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency program that my colleague Sam Anderson oversees. There are lots of opportunities in that, but we're not talking about that today. We're here to talk about the $2 million that is set aside specifically for soil health and our soil health initiative, and the current process that's underway right now with our application process that goes from August 1st and closes on September 15th. And so that's what we're really here to ask questions about and talk about today. If you have questions about the other things, we may be able to answer them, but really we're focusing on the soil health aspect of it. There's also House Bill 1181, which created the Voluntary Soil Health Program. And that is going to be coming online here soon this fall. We have a lot of activities that will take place having to do with that. The stimulus funding is really a precursor to the actual implementation of the soil health program. This House Bill 1181 is the product of a lot of work that was done by the Colorado Collaborative for Healthy Soils. And it also entailed a very robust stakeholder input process, and also numerous subcommittees where conservation districts, nonprofits, and grower groups gave a lot of input to these subcommittees. So I really like to acknowledge that, because that's been an important part of that bill. It wasn't a Department of Agriculture bill, but we did have a lot of input and work with it. So it was a well done effort. So anyway, I'm at that point where I'm ready to turn it over to Ryan Taylor, who's going to talk more about the actual implementation of the STAR program. And then after that, Nikki is going to cover the nuts and bolts of getting in and using that new portal for the application to turn it in and that sort of thing. And so she's going to talk to you after Ryan does. So Ryan, would you get us started in talking about how this will be implemented locally through the STAR program?
Absolutely. Thanks, Cindy. And good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. So what is the STAR program? The STAR program is a voluntary practice-based program meant to educate, give bragging rights to, and help structure the conversation around soil health within the community. This program STAR was originally created by conservation districts for conservation districts in Illinois. And it assigns points based on a best management practices for the 5 soil health principles, which are soil armor, minimize soil disturbance, plant diversity, continual living root, and livestock integration. As everybody here knows, Colorado is much different geographically as well as climatologically. And that forced us to create 10 field forms and 11 scoring sheets to try and encompass all the various cropping systems and management systems in agriculture here in Colorado. And fundamentally, really what we're trying to do is instill some resilience in Colorado agriculture by increasing water infiltration and water holding capacity. I think, let's see here, I want to share my screen. Kind of give you guys a look at the soil health page that the Colorado Department of Agriculture has up. And if we look through this, it kind of gives some background on what STAR is, how does it work, points assessed, why you should join, program availability. And then down here, this is kind of the critical part. The drop-down screens for individual producers where a individual producer enrollment form will be found. The STAR for conservation districts. And if you click on this, this will take you to your CSCB webpage, and we'll go there here in just a second. And then other eligible entities such as grower groups, nonprofits, and other NGOs, as well as Native American groups. We had a question yesterday and it came in late and we missed that one, but we wanted to make sure to emphasize that today. So if you click on one of these for the application, it'll send you over to here if you're a conservation district. And this kind of gives you an idea of what the platform, the philosophy really is. So a 1-star is a field with practices similar to what 80% of the fields are in that region. 2 stars is a field beginning to implement the soil health practices. 3, 4, and 5, we go from practices to principles. And really what we're doing there is we're combining many principles within a specific, or many practices within a specific principle. And so if we were to look at, like, for example, nutrient management, right? If we had, a nutrient management plan, we would have points for that. Slow release fertilizers, compost, urease inhibitors, nitrification inhibitors, all these practices within methods of nutrient management would create point points to add to your score. This here is really important for the entities who are going to be discharging this program, because it's really a flow chart that kind of runs us through how the process is going to work. And so right now, conservation districts and other entities are applying. We're going to select 16 districts. Those selected districts will sign a scope of work and receive the capacity support. That's another big component of this program, is building capacity support at the local level. The district will then identify 5 producers to work with. In the springtime, they'll perform the initial consultation, collect soil samples, and complete the consultation form. The districts will receive the capacity support of $2,000 per producer. Additionally, if they volunteer to cover a neighboring district, they'll get more capacity support for that. And so if there's producers in other districts that they want to be able to cover, they'll get some capacity support for that. But I just want to make clear that the total number of producers you're working with stays at 5. So if you have 4 producers you're working with in your district and 1 out of district, that would be how that works, or 3 and 2 or whatever. But I wanted to make sure that that was clear. The districts then turn in the producer match forms to CDA, and the CDA dispenses those incentive payments to the districts so they can distribute that to the producers. I also want to make clear on this part that that's an up to $10,000 per producer, and that will be per annum. They'll get that, the producers will get that every year for 3 years while they're enrolled in the program. For how that process works, here's the button that you will click, and I will hand that over to Nikki to kind of go through that. And stop sharing here. And Nikki, if you wouldn't mind taking it away.
Okay. Let's see here. Thanks, Ryan, and hi, everyone. It's good to see you again. Let me get mine up and I will pick up where Ryan left off. So the application process for STAR is the same application right now for eligible entities and conservation districts, or for STAR Plus, sorry. So for STAR, there will be an individual producer application at a later point, but right now we're just focused on the STAR Plus program for those other eligible entities and conservation districts. So like Ryan mentioned, and Cindy, the applications are due September 15th right now. You can find that information here on our webpage. For those of you that need to take this and some information to your boards and have some further discussions about it, the application is solely 100% online Google form to apply. However, there is a summary of the application, or a preview, I guess is what I called it here. It's a PDF that you can download and print and do whatever, but it has the exact same questions that will be on the application that you can take to your board. You can use to gather that information from your landowners that might be interested in the project and participating in with you in the grant. So that will cover all the questions, like I mentioned, that will be on the application. The other piece on this webpage that's pretty important is the grant guidelines. So we have mirrored the STAR grant application to be very similar and familiar for our conservation districts, for others like the matching grants and DCT programs that we run out. So you'll have your grant guidelines here, which will go through everything from application process through the year incentive payments for your producers, key dates and timelines. The only pieces that are not quite 100% complete yet is the actual reporting forms. Those will be, like I mentioned, similar to our other grants. It really depends on which grant program, federal grant program, we're able to line the conservation district up with, if there will be any variance in reporting, which will be very small on that. But we will have that information and make that available and provide trainings as soon as we get word that we're approved from that. The other thing I wanted to mention on this website is that the field assessment forms are on here, so you can kind of look see what you have for different products. The scoring sheets are on here as well. You can kind of walk through those and get a general idea of how that piece will work. But when your district is done and you have your 5 producers kind of lined up and in mind and ready to go, click on this brownish red 2021 star application button, and that will lead you straight to the application form here. So on the first page, just click your email, and then from this list, you will either pick other eligible entity or your actual conservation district name. If you choose your conservation district name, it'll go to next and it will go straight into the questions. If you're an eligible entity that can apply, definitely click here. You'll be sent to a kind of a middle page where it will ask you for your contact information, the name of your entity, that kind of information, just so we can make sure and gather that in our database in the back end. After this page, you will then be led to the spot where all those questions that are in that grant preview will be, and that's where you can answer them on here. You can also click to send me a copy of the response so that you get confirmation as soon as you click submit, and you can keep that for your grant application files. Now, one piece though is that once the application period closes, we will obviously take down the application so that you won't be able to fill that out anymore, but we will replace it with a link to the STAR portal. So that portal is going to be very similar to what Abby Gray has rolled out with our district conservation technician reapplication process this year, is that you will go to a portal, and I guess I didn't have it open yet, but you'll click on a link straight from there, and this is what the portal or program uploader in is. So you can switch conservation district or eligible entity, the name, the email that you would like to use. And then from here, we'll tweak these a little bit to see if you're just doing a producer match form. We'll make sure it matches the guidelines statement of work, or if you're submitting a report. From there, you just choose the file to upload it, hit submit, and you will receive an automatic confirmation that your report or your statement of work was submitted and filed, and the date and timestamp. So keep those for your grant tracking purposes, and that should cover all those bases there. This will automatically go into kind of our workflow database system so that we can get those processed timely for you, especially those producer payments, and try to get that turned around as soon as possible. If at any time you have questions throughout the process or on the grant or STAR application in of itself, Ryan put the website and the email in our chat box, but it is the CDA_soil at state.co.us. And that should be able to help get you some questions answered. We're more than happy to help on any of those. I'm just glancing at my notes real fast to make sure I covered everything, but I believe we can see if there's any questions in the chat. Oh, yeah, Ryan, if you'd like to go over the STAR versus the STAR Plus, that's fine. The one thing I did want to mention is the $20,000, and I think Heather, you asked this too on the capacity support. That $20,000 initial payment for the conservation districts is really to cover the conservation district's commitment of 2 to 3 years, depending on which grant, for them to provide the support, facilitate with those landowners, provide a field day and site visits, that kind of stuff. So that's really what that capacity support is. And Max, please jump in anytime if I'm missing a piece there. But I
will jump in real quick if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So the $20,000 would come at once conservation districts are selected to take part, and would be for running the STAR program for 3 years, as Nikki just said. But then there's additional ongoing capacity support, which would be provided each year for each producer taking part. So once you turn in your consultation form for a producer, then you would receive $2,000 for each producer you're working with each year for 3 years. So there's this initial upfront capacity support that covers 3 years, and then there's this ongoing capacity support each year. And there are some slight differences depending on the grant source for the, depending on the grant that would be funding your conservation district. Those details we weren't going to get all the way into today because we're still waiting to find out about which grants we're still waiting to find out which grants we will get. We've gotten one of the 3 grants and we're still waiting on 2 more. So there are a few slight differences around that, but we'll know more about that in the coming months.
And
Thanks, Max.
just to kind of build on that, the reason why there's not a, you know, a specific guideline there is each district has their own unique needs. I've heard some districts talking about, you know, maybe hiring on a DCT to help out with this. And it just really depends on the district and what your needs in that area are as far as how you would use that. I guess it would be up to you guys to really make that decision on how to spend that money. We're not going to try and tell you how to do that. I forgot to go over STAR versus STAR Plus, which is really important. What we've been talking about this morning, for the most part, is the STAR Plus. That's the matching grant program that we've been talking about. And I think I would be remiss if we didn't bring up the fact that there are going to be some non-vehicle equipment vouchers of $25,000 or $20,000. Max, is it 20 or 25?
$25,000.
$25,000. It'll be people.
It's $25,000 to the conservation district that can be distributed to participating producers in whatever way they see fit. So that could be split between the 5 participants, or it could go to 1 or 2 of those. Those equipment vouchers aren't for use by the conservation districts. They're to be distributed to program participants.
Right. So then back to STAR versus STAR Plus. The STAR program really is, it's going to be the self-serve button for individual producers. That's where individual producers can go online. They'll be able to fill out the form, fill out their sheets. They'll get a STAR rating. They'll get the first 100 people to participate will get their soil sampling covered by the CDA, and they'll get a sign. So that's really producers who are interested and really want to do it on their own outside of an entity or a conservation district. And you might have several people that come that maybe they don't want to participate with the conservation district, but they're interested. They're eventually, what we'd like to see is market signals for producers from the STAR program, where people who are buying farm goods will pay a premium for people who are producing with the use of STAR and other regenerative soil health practices. So they're in the end, we would like to see a benefit for everybody, even those producers who are participating on their own outside of the matching grant program.
And I'd just like to clarify a little bit more on what the eligible entity means. So there's a whole definition, of course, but it basically means a public, governmental, or private entity, an ag producer, a group of ag producers, a tribe, nonprofit entity, charitable organizations, academic or research institutions, a ditch corporation. It's pretty a big, wide open. Political subdivisions are also included, and federal and local governments. So it's eligible entities is pretty broad. And if you have questions on if your specific group is eligible or would like to be, feel free to ask us and we can help walk through that as well. But that's just a quick list of some of them that are listed.
And we do expect to select 16 conservation districts to take part and 4 eligible entities.
Correct.
Does anybody have any questions at this time?
Yes, feel free to unmute and go ahead and ask, or put them in the chat. That's fine too. If you're having issues with your mute button, definitely just raise your hand and I can send you a message to unmute, and we can try that as well. So both this recording and yesterday's recording will be posted online, and we'll get that shared with everyone as soon as those become available. So if you know of anyone who maybe missed it and was interested in participating, or you'd like to go back and listen to a certain section, you will be able to do that for those.
Nikki, I have a
Yes.
this is Susie with the Delta Conservation District, and I was wondering if there are any consequences if a producer signs up for 3 years and in 1 or 2 years decides either not to continue, sells their property or something like that. Are there any consequences for them? Will they have to pay anything back? Will it just end? Can you find someone to replace them? What would happen in that case?
We went into some detail about this in the grant guidelines document, which is linked on the website. I believe the consequence would be that they would not be eligible to receive funding through the STAR program in the future.
Thank you.
It looks like Cynthia Purcell from San Juan Conservation District has asked about the rangeland forms, and I appreciate you asking about that, Cynthia. So much of Colorado is rangeland and ranchland, and so right now where we are with the STAR program and implementing it, we do have, we are not as ready as we'd like to be for the ranch side of this. However, we do have some forms that are and a process that we're working on for working with ranchers and farmers that's not so much practice-based, but more based on conservation planning, drought planning, and implementing and things like that. So we won't be penalizing districts that have mostly ranch land. We want you to apply, and we want you to continue, and because we want you to be able to work with ranchers on this. But we've decided that, well, ranch land is hard to fit into a box that it looks like how we're working it with cropland. But we do have a process that we are working with that will work for ranch lands. But like I said, there are 5 different components to the ranch land side that won't be practice-based, but are based on more of the planning, like I said, and that we're going to continue to refine the actual STAR forms and have a stakeholder process that we can talk through how it works on ranch lands. But for now, we're continuing forward, and districts that have ranchers that would be applying and wanting to work on soil health could still do it through this process.
Yeah, I think Cindy made a really important point here, which is this is going to be an iterative process. We really want feedback, and we want to be able to dial these forms in, these scoring sheets and these field forms in. Additionally, if there's something that somebody wants to do that isn't on our scoring sheet or field form, we definitely like that feedback as well, so we can kind of look and see how that works over a couple of years, and if it's effective, we can go ahead and add that. So we really want that bottom-up approach as well.
This is kind of a group answer to a question, but Nancy Asherman asks, what do we tell the producer to get them involved in the program? And really, those are conversations, those are local conversations. But to get started, I think I would put out there, maybe through a newsletter, maybe through an email blast, maybe through, there are different ways that you communicate with your landowners that are in your district. And I would start by putting out a communication to them that you're inviting landowner participants who are interested in improving and working on their soil health. And that the conservation district is getting funding assistance to be able to work one-on-one with producers as they are planning and considering potential changes to their system that would improve soil health. I mean, there's technical assistance and financial assistance associated with this, putting it out there that this is a voluntary program, and we're looking for 5 or more producers that would be interested in participating in this and committing for 3 years. You know, you do that for a lot of other conservation activities. Some districts do it for NRCS signups, but this would be one that would be a conservation district based sign up. If anybody else on this team has ideas on how to start that conversation, please speak up.
Yeah,
well,
a couple of weeks ago, I did send out an email to all the districts that also has a sample press release that you're more than welcome to use and edit or not use. You know, for landowners to just put out there and contact your office for information so you can start building your list. As far as other options, Cindy covered most of them, but they were in that email as well on different press releases or reaching out to landowners or previous participants in your district's cost share programs. Those are also good resources. As far as marketing materials, the website that we'll make sure is shared too. There are soil success stories on there that you can share. There's a whole bunch of information on the main soil website that you're more than happy to download, print off, share, you know, send out to folks that you can really use to help.
No, I think one of the most important resources you have is your actual producers. I've traveled the state almost in its entirety since I took the job in March. And I have found producers who are already doing this, who are champions in every area of the state, and having those people on board in your corner is really beneficial. They can communicate what they've been doing and some of the things they've been trying, what's been successful in the area. So I think that's a really important resource for you guys. The field forms and scoring sheets for producers who have hay ground or pastures are coming. To be very blunt about it, the cropping systems were just a lot easier to do, and we left the perennial grasslands till last because we knew that was going to be a heavy lift. But you know, high mountain meadows and pastures and hayland, non-legume, basically non-alfalfa haylands. Those field forms and scoring sheets for range and pasture and hay is all coming.
It's safe to say that by the time we are asking districts to implement this, that we will have the rangeland forms to go, because the way we're doing contracting for this is that it would start in January. And so when that begins, then you know, I think we'll have those rangeland forms firmed up by then. It's it's not. We've had many discussions on it, and we've been working on it quite a bit. And so I think we're almost there. I think we just need to invite some focus groups of ranchers and range managers in there to make sure that this is something that can move forward. So I think we're about there, actually. I don't think we're definitely farther along than starting out with those forms.
Yeah, and sorry for the long pause. I was just reading that last statement. And Cindy's right. We have the form and format in place. We're just kind of coming up with the specifics for each component. And we'll definitely have something before the end of the year, for sure. Hopefully sooner.
Our website does also have I believe it's 2, maybe 3 pages tops, kind of grant overview of STAR that might actually help break down the stars. It's basically a summary of everything we have on our website, but more targeted to have the information that you can share with your producers on what the actual program is and what they'll be going through with you.
I'd just like to point out, we got our new STAR field signs this week that can be given out to producers that participate in this. What I really like about this, I don't have one with me right now, but what I like is at the bottom, it shows the partnership. And of course, within that partnership is the place for the conservation district name to go on there, and that would go out on a fence outside the field where the producer is participating, you know, picking a field to use to participate. Getting back to the, not to go overboard in the rangeland side of things, but one of the big aspects of the rangeland is it isn't just a field. It is usually the whole ranch, and it takes on a larger perspective and a larger review process to go through. And so, but with the crop side of it, it really is one field or a couple of fields if a farmer wants to do that. And so that makes it a little more concise to work with. Because we all know rangeland systems and ranches aren't just managed by a field or a pasture. It is a part of a whole system.
So
Yeah,
I have
and
a
I would
question.
just- Yep, go
Sorry.
ahead.
Hi, I'm Laura with the Eagle County Conservation District. We actually were talking about the STAR program in our last meeting, and that was one of the questions that came up, as if it would just be, you know, a lot of our interested participants own a lot of land, but they're not necessarily grazing those lands. And so what part of the land would count in terms, are you just considering working acreage or total acreage?
Question, Laura. And really it is the working part of a ranch that would be considered in this. We hope to eventually be able to work the soil health program into, you know, post-fire recovery. You know, we have a lot of other areas where there are needs for improving soil health and function of soils, you know, after disasters, after floods, after fires, things like that. I know I'm getting off on a tangent. That's not what you were asking for, but we recognize there are places on ranches that aren't grazed, that aren't really utilized, but are part of the acreage. That's and I think I can speak for what we've been working towards, and it's the working part of a ranch that we're talking about.
Okay, that's great. That's kind of what we had assumed or move forward with when kind of building our application. So I appreciate that input.
Thanks for your question.
And Laura, it's really, the range is going to be centered around the process, right? The planning. So if that land isn't utilized in the plan, it wouldn't be necessarily as important. I also just wanted to say to folks, you know, even though next year is going to be when you're going to be implementing this, especially for range, it wouldn't be a bad idea to try and work with producers and try and at least get some people on board or get an idea of who might be willing to participate. Because as Cindy has alluded to, I think the range component is just, it's going to take a little more planning than just filling out the form that's available on the, like for corn or wheat production or potatoes or something like that. So it'd be worth getting somebody, the people that you have in mind, getting them on board and kind of starting that conversation.